You're listening to Symposium, a year-round conference in the arts, brought to you by Pipeline Artists. Ruth is not here tonight, so I'm solo. So everybody go easy on me. I have no one back behind the scenes
We're not going easy on you. Not at all. No.
Hit me with all you got.
Yeah.
Do it all. Tonight we're here one-on-one with Grant Faulkner. Chat is disabled. Oh my gosh. See, this is where I need Ruth, because how do I enable the chat?
I think there are a lot of people. I've heard a lot of people on the internet love watching people troubleshoot Zoom problems during
that's good, because
a webcast. Yeah,
here we are.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating thing to watch. Actually, I bet people are taking bets on the side to see. I think it's a good gambling moment.
I know.
It's a good moment to think about your character dilemmas in your novel and kind of pattern them off of like what's happening now.
Because you know what they say, like when you're writing something, always ask, what's the worst thing that could happen in this particular moment? This isn't the worst thing, everyone.
No, it could get worse.
I made it so you guys can comment on the questions. I can figure out how to do that. Yeah, I can't figure out how to do the chat. I have no idea how to do it.
But the Q&A is working though.
Ruth is never allowed to take a holiday.
And we're working, as far as I can tell, we're working.
We're working fine. Everybody can see us, and
I think so. Yeah.
We'll be fine. You guys don't need to be talking to each other. That's too much noise. Welcome, everyone. Very excited to talk to Grant. Grant and I met on Twitter. Do we meet on Twitter, or do we meet at a
Writer's Digest? I think so. I think we met on Twitter, and then we met at the Writer's Digest conference. Yeah.
Yes. Twitter is a great place.
Really?
No. It's a great place. It used to be a great place.
It sometimes is a great place.
It can be a great place.
Yeah, it can be. All of social media can be a great place.
Yeah. But okay, before we go, I'm going to introduce Grant, do a formal introduction. Okay. So Grant is the executive director of National Novel Writing Month. And I'm going to be kind of doing that this year, but in my own little way. And we'll all, we'll have to find a way to connect with each other if any of you guys are doing it, so that we can all follow each other and cheer each other on. But he's also the co-founder of 100-Word Story. He's published Pep Talks for Writers, 52 Insights and Actions to Boost Your Creative Mojo, Brave the Page, All the Comfort Sin Can Provide, Fissures, a collection of 100-word stories, and Nothing Short of 100, selected tales from 100-Word Story. His stories have appeared in dozens of literary magazines, including Tin House, the Southwest Review, and the Gettysburg Review, as well as in anthologies such as Best Small Fictions and Norton's New Micro, exceptionally short fiction. His essays on creativity have been published in the New York Times. Ooh, the New York Times. I want to hear about that. Poets and Writers, Writer's Digest, and The Writer. And you can also write for Pipeline Artists anytime you want.
Sure.
He also hosts Write Minded, a weekly podcast on writing and publishing, and he's an executive producer of the upcoming TV show, America's Next Great Author. Oh my God. I don't know where do we begin? Okay. Just a little, since it was right in your bio, what is a 100-word story?
Yeah, it's a story that is exactly 100 words, not a word. Not one word more or one word less. So I think of it as like a camera with a fixed lens, like you can't zoom in or anything. And so that's the challenge. You're writing within this constraint. And so my theory is that constraints bring out your creativity. Usually constraints have like a negative connotation, but I think it's positive actually. And the 100-word story, like I started doing 100-word stories very accidentally way back when I was working on this novel I call my doomed novel. I've been working on it for years. And a friend of mine published a collection of 100-word stories, and I became very charmed by them. And I initially tried to write some of them, but I would only be able to write like 150 words. That's as short as I could get it. And I told him, I said, hey, I'm very proud of myself. I've been writing these short stories just like you, and they're about 150 words. And he was like, no. You got to get them down to 100. You have to practice that exercise of omission and telling a story through hints and like thinking about the power of suggestion in your prose.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really did formed this whole new writing mindset for me, and taught me a lot about creating suspense on the page and what you don't need to include. Like writing a 100-word story, it's almost like it's a collaborative writing reading experience. Your reader is filling in so many of the gaps. So you're writing with gaps as well as like the words. So it's just a very different writing experience than writing novels, although they've really informed each other for me. My writing short has really informed the way that I write long.
I think that's really interesting too. Like I know when we were talking about Twitter before, one of the things I loved about the 140 character Twitter is it was such a great exercise in editing.
Yeah, exactly.
And when they made it 200 and is it 240 now?
I think 250, yeah.
Yeah, it's like really can we go back to the other way? Because you can say the same thing in less words, and then it's less. I don't know. I just think it's helpful for writers. I think it's really a great tool to learn how to do that.
Absolutely. And that's what 100-word story is for me. It's an exercise more in editing than writing.
Yeah.
It really teaches you, and it's amazing because you've just noticed, because you're paying attention to every single word. So you're just noticing every flabby part of a sentence. Every word has to do a lot of work. And even when I pick up my 100-word stories, some of them that have been published, every once in a while, I'll be like, oh, wow, this needs editing.
Yeah.
I can still tighten this more, because you're writing so much just for the pure essence of a moment, so it kind of changes. But this is all to say too that, like 100-word stories, I always get asked, can you really tell a story in 100 words? And my answer is you can, because most of the stories I've read or that we've either published on the website or I've published, they have a beginning, middle, and end. They have a character change or pivot. It's a little bit different maybe, but it's there.
Yeah. I mean, it's, and Alexandra said, I try to fit what I want to say on the Twitter limit, which is good. It's just a good tool. And if there's any screenwriters listening to us, Twitter is a really good, and this 100-word story is probably a really good exercise in helping you get a lot of weight on the page, So let's go back to when you were a child.
Is this a therapy session?
Yes.
Open therapy
relax. Session. It's a therapy session with wine.
Oh. Wow, that's a big mug of wine.
Well, it's not full. It was. Okay. So like when I saw something on your website about like writing supplies. Is one of like when you were a kid was like your favorite thing, like back to school and going to get.
Gosh, yeah. That was second to Christmas.
And like I wonder why that is. Like I loved that.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think sometimes there's a genetic component to these things. I mean, I just was born loving writing supplies. I would when my mom lost me in the grocery store, I'd always be sitting there in the tiny section with the notebooks and notepads and pens, and I just always had before I could write, I had a fascination with them, like on every single level. It was kind of like a fetish. I just loved them, and always liked to express myself that way. And so from the start, I knew I was a writer.
Do you believe in reincarnation? Because maybe you were a writer in a past life and that's what drew you. Are we getting?
No, because being a writer,
I've not had any wine yet.
Yeah, no, being a writer is such a hard life. You'd never do it twice. I'm joking. I take a lot of joy in being a writer. So yeah, maybe I am reincarnated.
So would you say your child wants to be a writer? Would you encourage?
I would. Neither of my children have any desire to be a writer. I think my wife is a writer, and I think they've just seen us. They see that there's no glamour to it. They see us sitting around with our laptops on our laps writing, and they don't see the inner joy that we might be feeling. They see only kind of the anguish and the it's a challenge, right? I mean, being a writer is a challenge in terms of like at every stage. It's a challenge to write your first draft. It's a challenge to go through all those revisions. It's a challenge to put it out there in the world and be so vulnerable and to receive feedback. Challenge to find an agent, to find a publisher. There's a lot, like I say, there's a lot of joy in each step, and I'm obviously doing it for that joy.
Yeah.
But yeah, my kids, I think they see it. They just don't see the romantic glamour that a lot of people who don't grow up with writers as parents might see. Like when I was growing up, I didn't know any writers. I grew up in this small town in Iowa. And so the images of writers were always wearing these beautiful sweaters and walking along pastoral paths with dogs and pipes and great glasses of wine or whatever, and living in France, and looked like a pretty good life.
Yeah. Yeah, in theory it does. It's like, and I mean, how many times do you run across people who are like, "Oh, you're a writer? Like, have you written anything I would know? Like, or have you like, all that stuff?" And they don't realize that there's so many ways to be a writer. I mean, like, maybe we should talk about that. Like, a lot of people just assume if you're a writer, you've written a novel or you've written, I mean, but there's, journalists and there's also writing articles for sites, writing short stories, writing things that people may not always see.
Right.
And the challenge of that, like what being a writer means. And like when people, like for me, I can't stand the word aspiring.
Yeah. I always say, I mean, the definition of writing to me, you're a writer if you write. I mean, we're all aspiring in the sense that this is part of the anguish, but also the magic and the joy of writing is that you've never mastered it. You've never perfected it. You're always going out. Every story has new challenges. Every sentence does. And that's the beauty of it, right? Is that we sit down and we try to perfect it. We try to master it. And so in that sense, we're aspiring. But I really think that there's something, I mean, when I like to joke about the anguish side, like that my kids see, the non-romantic side, but I'm happiest when I write, actually. And I think there is just a joy of finding meaning in the world and putting words to that meaning and putting it on the page. And then I love touching readers. I don't need to be a bestseller. I just need like essentially one reader. I'm so touched if somebody reads something I wrote and tells me like what they thought. I think that's a magical moment.
Yeah.
So per your theory, I just think there's so many ways to go about being a writer. And oftentimes people do make the assumption that everybody wants to be a best-selling author and make a lot of money and make movies off their books and all that stuff. And yeah, most writers probably do have that somewhere in the back of their mind. But one thing that I'm charmed by, that I really discovered more through my being executive director of National Novel Writing Month, is a lot of people write with us every year just for the act of writing, just because they like writing down stories and they like doing it with their friends. And I think that's so special to have, because that's what we do as children, right? Think about those first stories you wrote. You don't really think about publishing those and making money off of them and turning them into products. You're just writing for the joy of storytelling. And I think we all need to remember that joy, no matter where we are in our writing life.
Yeah. I mean, I just moved. And so when I moved, I went through everything and I happened to find like a spiral notebook full of my high school angst poems, which I told Sadie I threatened to read one of them on Reckless Creatives podcast. But yeah, I mean, it's fun to just sort of see the evolution within yourself, but also with those people you build a community with. Like with Nano, it's such a, like, how did you get involved with them?
Accidentally. I think so much about NaNoWriMo is an accident, like a good accident. I think we need to look for accidents, trust accidents, have an intuitive sense about them. Like I actually, so Chris Beatty, so I'll go back to the beginning of NaNoWriMo. It was founded in 1999 by Chris Beatty, although he didn't found anything. He just wanted to write a novel with his friends. That's the accident part. Then it turned into NaNoWriMo. But anyway, so he joined 20 of his friends to write a novel in 1999. I think my good friend Jake wrote with Chris either in the year 2000 or 2001. But anyway, I was recently probably 8 years out from getting my MFA at that point. And when I heard my friend Jake say, "Oh, we're all writing a novel in a month," I was like, that's not the right way to write a novel. I was like, whatever. I was very, I guess,
Skeptical.
judgmental, skeptical. Yeah. And then years later, I kind of felt like my creative process was in a rut. And I had this question. I was like, do we determine our creative process, or does it kind of just find us and we do it, So I really wanted to question it. And I wrote in a kind of what I call precious, ponderous, slow style. And so I decided, like, let's see what it's like to write something fast, to write with abandon. And I did NaNoWriMo, and I thought it was such an interesting creative experiment. And it led me down many creative paths that I wouldn't have gone down ordinarily. But then the way I got involved was actually totally different. I was working for the National Writing Project, which is a nonprofit dedicated to helping teachers teach writing better. And I'd been there for a number of years, and I wanted to deepen my nonprofit kind of management and leadership experience. And Chris Beatty was an acquaintance. And I just sent him an email one day, and I was like, hey, do you know of any boards in the East Bay arts organizations that need board members? And he was like, hey, why don't we talk? And I had no idea that he would want to talk to me about joining his board. And when I joined the board, he said, by the way, I'm stepping down, and thought I should apply. And I had no intention of being a nonprofit executive director, but he's a very persuasive guy, and he convinced me to apply. I got the job, and that was about 10 years ago. So, yeah.
Well, so, you're very good at it, and very warm and welcoming and helpful for writers. That has to bring you a lot of satisfaction.
Thank you. It does. I mean, I feel like I encounter so many people who say I'm not a creative type, or I'm not a writer, or I'm not a storyteller. And so I think, like, for me, NaNoWriMo exists to help enliven that creative energy and help people believe in themselves as creators and storytellers. And so I always say, there's that Picasso quote, which I'm probably going to mangle, that every child is born an artist, but the challenge is to remain an artist once you're an adult. And what obviously happens is we got caught up so much in the ambitions, the aspirations of life, all the practical things in life, that most people let creativity slide off of their to-do lists. And so NaNoWriMo is like just 1 month of the year, 30 days, where you get to say, I'm a creator, I'm a storyteller, I'm going to make it a priority for a month. And that's what I think its beauty is. And so hopefully you can keep it on your to-do list. Maybe it's not number one the rest of the year, but somewhere, because it's a really valuable thing to feel yourself as a creative type. We're all creative types. That's the definition of being human. So I don't take it when people say I'm not a creative type. I hate hearing that. And so that's
and I love that, because it's like you're giving people permission to be artistic and creative and get their story on the page for 1 month out of the year, when a lot of times I think, like, when you talk about the kid thing, like when you're born an artist, and the most beautiful thing is watching your children be uninhibited, like to not think about anything. They have no boundaries or emotion. They're not embarrassed by anything. Whatever. And then that first moment when you notice your child is like a little self-conscious, like, I will never forget that moment when I saw it on my daughter's face, and it just was like, it hurt, because the world come in, and you knew that at that point, when you're self-conscious and you start double thinking and triple thinking and running it through your head before it comes out your mouth, or for writers, before you put it on the page, if you're filtering yourself, it's going to change the work. I mean, that's one of the things, like when I first read Stephen King's On Writing, and he had that section about write with the door closed. Don't think about anyone reading your work. And when I talked to Matt about, at Pipeline, about like what makes a really good story, what makes one of those great scripts, or the books that we, judge for Book Pipeline, what makes it stand out? And it's always a good concept and writing with passion. Like,
absolutely.
They really love what they're writing about. And it shows on the page, and where they go to those places that you never expected. But if you're filtering yourself and self-conscious and whatnot, it's not going to happen. And that, for me, is the beauty of Nano, because if you're focusing on the goal of 100, what is it, 1,666 words, whatever words a day, 1,500 words a day.
Yeah.
I feel like the beauty is you're focusing on the goal, so you're not so much thinking about what I'm writing always. You're getting the words out, so it's more of a stream of consciousness, and you're just putting it all, I don't want to say vomiting, but like all on the page. And then you can look at it afterwards and you might be like, okay, there's a lot of this that's crap and I'm not going to use, and this is what rewriting is for. But I don't think I ever would have thought of this.
Yeah.
This plot point, this character.
Those are the gems I found that first year that I did it. It was a creative process that led me to new places. And I think when you said that, Matt, the best writing is writing that shows passion, I absolutely agree. I think that the more a writer can be vulnerable on the page, we connect to people who make themselves vulnerable. We connect to writing that makes them, on the page that is vulnerable. I think that that's more important than any craft lesson, actually, is to find that honesty and to let yourself be open. And so NaNoWriMo, there's, in some ways, there's two basic principles. It's like banish your inner critic, all those naysaying voices, and write with abandon. And so the goal and the deadline, which we say as a creative midwife, it puts that pressure and opens up those doors for you, right? Because like you said, you have to focus on your progress, on moving the story forward to get that 1,700 words a day. And that's where the writing with abandon comes in. But to write with abandon, you've got to have the critic, out of the picture.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting formula for creativity. So yeah.
So what have you found about like doing Nano, when people come to you and like, because Nano, if you guys go to the NaNoWriMo website, nanowrimo.org, they've got resources, they have t-shirts, they have everything. But
everybody needs a t-shirt to write a novel, by the way. That is a requirement. You have to.
You do,
and a mug.
That's right. And I should have worn my Pipeline Artist sweatshirt. We have sweatshirts, by the way. But people get hung up on, what do I need to do to prepare for Nano? And some people, I know I've talked to some writers who are like, well, I didn't do any preparing. I don't have an outline, so I can't do it. I personally have done it a couple different ways. One was, when you talked about trying on a different kind of writing style, writing strategy or routine or whatever. I'm a planner, so I'm very organized and I have outlines and I like my outline. But the first time I did Nano, I did not have any outline for the story. I had a story idea. And I said, you know what? I hear about these pantser people. What is it like to be a pantser? And so that's what I did for my first Nano.
Good for you.
And I ended up with 50,000 words of crap in terms of prose and quality of prose and all that stuff. But it wasn't about that. It was about discovery of the story. And it went in, I never ended up finishing that novel and going back and writing it, but it was more of an experiment. And it was supposed to be a product. And I wanted to see, like, does this story have legs? Like, is this something, is there enough conflict here? Can I develop these characters enough? Are they interesting enough? And they took me places I never thought they would go. And they became these people. I never thought that they would do some of the things they did. And it was so liberating that now my writing style is just a rough outline, a general idea of where I'm going to go. But I think in each chapter, what do I want to happen in this chapter today? Like, I might have a general idea, but when you do an outline, there's always missing chapters in your outline. You don't have every chapter figured out.
I hope so. Yeah.
Right. And so now the beauty of having done Nano the first time is now I'm sort of a mix of both. I outline.
You're a plantser.
I'm a plantser. I kill plants, but I'm a plantser.
You're a plantser, yeah. I liked several things you said there. One was that the draft is a process of discovery, and I increasingly like to think of that first draft or rough draft. For me, I call it the discovery draft. the exploratory draft. And I think that that's just a really, for me, a great way to view it, because that's, and it could be a planning draft too. A lot of people, I just talked to somebody on my podcast today, Andrea Bartz, who writes thrillers, but she doesn't outline the thriller ahead of time. She writes an exploratory draft in NaNoWriMo, and then she outlines afterwards. The other thing I liked about what you said was that when you did that first Nano, you were just testing an idea. And I always say, what a effective way to test an idea, to do just spend 30 days with it. And for me, I do that too. And part of the test is like, do I love this novel enough to keep writing it? Because to write a novel and finish a novel, it can sometimes take years.
Yeah.
So I want to assess the idea. It's a good idea, but I also want to assess my own passion for writing it, and my own, because part of that discovery draft, I always say it's best to write for the question, or to write for the answers to the questions. And I'm like you, I'm a planter, and I don't want to diminish anyone's creative process, because I think I know outliners who write these big behemoth outlines, and they are also joyful as they're writing their NaNoWriMo draft. But for me, outlines, if they get to be too meticulous and too voluminous, they kind of corner me. I feel like I've already determined the story before I write the story, and I want to write for those surprises that you mentioned. So I think it's like, and like you, I think like that's the beauty of NaNoWriMo, is that you can try and outline one year, and then try pantsing it the next year, and just kind of feel how each one of those creative processes works for you. Because I don't think that you have to decide on one and then wear the Team Planter sweatshirt. Like I think I like to
sell those, because maybe you should.
We should, yeah. Okay, we will. I think like there are different moments in a novel where you might want to just be like, okay, I'm going to pants today. I'm going to write really fast. I'm going to write 500 words in the next 10 minutes. And then there are other days where you're like, I'm going to write. I really want to poke around in this paragraph for about an hour. I really want to, tweak it.
Yeah.
So,
which I think is great. I think that's what I love about it. And the other thing about Nano is, if a lot of our listeners today are on Twitter, if you follow the hashtag NaNoWriMo, and then I always do that with a hashtag writing sprints. And so I'll call out a writing sprint and I'll tag NaNoWriMo, and then you'll get other people writing with you. And then it's not just, for me, Nano isn't just about, a concentrated month of developing a habit of writing every day. It's in discovering your story and testing an idea and all that kind of stuff. It's also about building a community. Absolutely. And can you talk a little bit about that NaNoWriMo community and what that's been like for you, and the impact it's had on you personally, and also just for writers in general?
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing, because like, when you mentioned that we met on Twitter, that's part of the NaNoWriMo community. I've met so many people on social media, and whatever, I've never met them in person, most of them, but we're in contact and supporting each other's writing in different ways. But NaNoWriMo, I'll just tell a little bit about the story of its genesis. Chris Beatty basically woke up one day and said, "Hey, I want to write a novel," because I love reading novels. Looked over at his bookshelf, picked up a very slim volume, said, "Hey, that's about 50,000 words or so, like The Great Gatsby. You can do that in 30 days if you write 1,677 words a day." And then he invited 20 of his friends to join him. And so from the very beginning, NaNoWriMo was a community event. And most writing organizations don't focus on that community, especially back in 1999. And so what happened when Chris's 20 friends, they would meet in a coffee shop after work, and if somebody didn't show up, they might get a phone call and say, "Hey, you're still writing your novel." So that community was also had an accountability framework to it, right? But then they also made writing fun. They did like writing games. So they might challenge each other, like, whoever can write the most in the next 5 minutes or 10 minutes will get a latte. And so, they would have a game. And so it would be kind of competitive, a friendly competition. And then, you get your latte as a prize. And then the next game might be, you can't go to the bathroom until you've written 1,000 words. And this is like the most motivational writing technique in the world, especially after you've had a lot of liquids and And
And you had that latte.
Yeah, you had that latte. So anyway, they made it fun and they brought people together. And, I've read all these psychological studies about how people are more creative when they are just with other people. They don't even have to be talking to them. And so NaNoWriMo, we're founded on that, and we have 1,000 volunteers. We call them municipal liaisons. They are literally around the world. They, in their communities, they organize events just like the one I described. They'll get 10 or 20 people in a cafe. They'll give people writing prompts and writing sprints, or just quiet writing time, whatever it is. It's writing together. And so you're building your network and your community of writers through NaNoWriMo, through that shared experience. And then we work with about 1,000 libraries through our Come Write In program, and they do the same thing. They build these writing communities and libraries. And it started out that most of that happened in the NaNoWriMo season in October and November, but now most of those volunteers do it year round.
Yeah.
And then that's just the in-person events. So like you said, on hashtag NaNoWriMo is trending on a lot of social media platforms in the month of November. And there's just so many ways to connect to people online. On our website, we have really vibrant, active forums as well.
Yes, you do. And the other thing that's really cool about the website is I guess you guys could put something in the Q&A, like how many of you do Nano?
We do have a Q&A here.
Yeah, we do. We do have, we'll go over there, but the thing that's cool too about the NaNoWriMo website is that you put in what your book is and what you're working on, and then you enter in every day how many words you wrote, and then you can see the little bar going.
Yeah.
And it's, for somebody like me who's a competitive freak, it's like a little stressful. But one of the things I want to say, and then we're going to go over the Q&A, is that first year I did it, and I discovered story, but I ended up with something that wasn't really like workable. It was just a glob of not good clay. And so I didn't feel like I could really mold it. I was going to have to start over. So I was always going to go back. I saved it. I still have that file, and I'm going to go back and like kind of pull out what's good there and maybe create an outline and then start that book over someday. But what I decided to do the next time was I had a solid idea. I knew I wanted to write it. I had a kind of a plan of where I was going to go. And I decided I was going to focus on making a goal of, instead of 50,000 words, just making a goal of, I just want however many words, hopefully maybe 20,000 that are good words that I can then continue after Nano is done and keep going to get to that goal. And I gave myself permission to not focus on the 50,000, but to focus on the practice and discipline of sitting and doing it every day. And I did end up finishing that book. I haven't published it yet because there's a trilogy and I want to do all of them, but it was amazing. It was amazing. So I thank you for that.
Sure.
But before I go to the Q&A, I just want to talk about kids.
Yeah.
Because whatever we can do to encourage our children and the children of our friends, who sometimes maybe look up to us as, oh, you're a writer, you're right, whatever. Tell us about the kids program that you do.
Yeah, it's called the Young Writers Program, and it's a separate website, a separate program from the main NaNoWriMo site, and about 100,000 kids and teens participate every year. And we support about 10,000 classrooms with free novel writing resources, including curriculum aligned to the Common Core. And the website has, these virtual classrooms, a writing platform where kids can also track their word count, daily word count, and the goals. So everything is free. That's what I should also emphasize.
Just great.
Everything we do is free, no matter what. And that's because we want to provide access to creativity to as many people as possible. That's our mission. Yeah, we're a nonprofit too.
Yeah. So donate to NaNoWriMo.
That's why I plugged the t-shirt earlier and the mug. And we do love donations because it helps us do good in the world. You know what I've learned is people like to invest in businesses and get a return on their investment. Not a lot of people like to give. I mean, we're very blessed because our participants, we run on the $25 donations that our participants give us, but we get nothing from the publishing industry, despite forming a pipeline of books that goes straight to them that they make a lot of money off of. It's unfortunate. But that
is really interesting.
It's criminal in my book, but yeah.
Yeah. I still have so many questions for you, but I also want to make sure that the people who are spending their time with us tonight get to ask some questions.
Yeah.
So Lee had asked a question quite a while ago. What's the best way to keep from falling behind in NaNoWriMo? If I miss 3 or 4 days, I'm tempted to bail.
Yeah, that's something we face a lot. And, in a course of a month, it is hard to write every day. And so most people will miss a day or two. And it's easy that once you fall behind in your word count, to then be like, I can't catch up. And I hate to hear the stories of people dropping out, especially when they drop out after only 3 or 4 days. And so I think, I think there are a lot of different ways to go about it. But I would say kind of recalibrate your goal. If you can't hit 50,000 words, don't let that be something that pushes you out of writing. Set a goal of 40,000 words or 30,000, whatever it is, whatever you need to do to write, because the main premise of this event is to write. And there's so many things you get out of that writing experience, even if you don't hit 50,000 words, that I just think you should keep showing up to write. And, we've heard amazing stories. Sometimes people get second, third, fourth wins. Sometimes, they think they're going to lose and they will write 5 or 10,000 words on a Saturday when they're really inspired. So who knows, you might regain that momentum and catch up. But I've had so many people actually come up to me and kind of hang their head and apologize for only writing 10,000 words in a month. And I'm like, only 10,000 words, if you do that every month of the year, that's 120,000 words in a year. That's practically 2 novels. So just be proud of what you're writing. And I think that will give you the juice to keep going.
Yeah. And also like what I did for that Nano, that the second time I did it, I only wrote on the weekends, because I apologize if you guys can hear my dog in the background, but because the weekends, it was just unrealistic for me to do it Monday through Friday with my job. So I just said, you know what, I'm just going to do it on the weekends. And then it was so liberating because it was not stressful. It was, this is my time. This is my time to write.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about emails or anything that I'm doing for work. And so just don't beat yourself up.
Exactly. You know what? I mean, part of NaNoWriMo is having confidence in your story and telling yourself that your story matters. And that's just such a more joyful way to write. Just try to be proud of what you write and try to, convince yourself that it matters and have confidence. So, yeah.
Do you get writer's block?
No, I actually don't believe in writer's block. And here's why. I have scientific evidence, in case you don't believe me. So I've done hundreds, maybe thousands of word sprints with groups. And basically a word sprint is I'll give a prompt and I'll say, write as much as you can for 5 minutes. And all these thousands of people I've dealt with, I haven't had one not be able to write. And so I think the only thing we need is like an invitation to write, like that prompt, and open up the doors just a crack. And there are words and stories in our brain just ready to come out. We don't even have to think about them, plan them, outline. They just happen. And so I don't believe, I believe you can tell yourself you have writer's block. I believe that you can be fatigued or anxious and just not feel like writing. I think like if you have legitimate trauma or depression, that's an entirely different thing. But I think that if you really want to write, you could give yourself a prompt and 5 minutes and words would come out.
Yeah. I think it's more, from my experience, I think writer's block is more just procrastination.
Yeah, I mean, writer's block is like procrastination is fear generally, right? And so I think writer's block has like elements of fear. There's emotional components to it that we convince ourselves that those emotions, we follow those emotions instead of figuring out techniques to get around them.
Yeah. Well, even like how you said in the beginning, when you were talking about the first time you tried Nano, you wanted to explore because something wasn't working in the routine that you had. And so that's not necessarily a block. It's just a kind of a wall or stumble or just a slog, and so you tried something different. So I would recommend to those people who feel blocked, who feel like they can't get past that, to just try something different,
Yeah, exactly.
Whether writing a different time of the day or going out for a walk. Like sometimes I come up with the best story ideas when I'm not sitting in front of the laptop.
Yeah. Trust being away from the laptop.
Yeah. Go out and live.
living's good.
What? It's okay to go a few months without writing. I mean, like, it's okay. Like, go live your life. Stop. Don't force it. I feel like when you're forcing it, that's when you end up getting blocked because it's like you're all tangled up. Live.
There you go. There you go.
Someone had said, based on a comment that you had said earlier, life is never mastered. So isn't writing kind of like life?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think mastery is more of an idea than a reality. But I think writing is one of those activities that's so challenging that you can't even imagine mastering it. I think like when you were talking about, I think you were talking about the first recognition that you would see in a child of their self-consciousness, that what they wrote, or drew or whatever, didn't measure up. And that happens around fourth grade for a lot of people. And it's because before fourth grade, it has to do with the developmental quality of your brain. Kids will draw trees and cars and the sky and whatever, and they will think it matches pretty perfectly. But by fourth grade, they start to scrutinize it and say, hey, that car doesn't really look like a real car,
Yeah.
And so their inner critic will start to develop at that age. And then there's plenty of societal forces that keep nourishing that inner critic in different ways. And so, go ahead.
One of the things that I did at my old house, in my office, I put up, for this exact reason, I framed and put up pictures that my kids had painted when they were in second grade. And to remind myself, always create with that kind of freedom.
Yeah. And
I still have them. We moved into a smaller house, so I don't have room but I'm hanging them up I'm going to find a place to put them. I can't fit them in my office, but I'm going to find a place to put them. It's a good reminder. Okay, so Chelsea wants to know, how does one get on this America's Next Great Author show?
Well, we're filming the pilot in Newark, and so we do have all of our contestants picked for that portion of the show. So we had a ton of submissions. We accepted 100.
Tell us about it. What is the show? What is it?
So we're just shooting the pilot, and then once we have the pilot, we will hopefully get funding from a network, and it will be a real show where Chelsea can audition to be on the show. So it's basically, the shorthand for it is it's American Idol, but for writers. That's Act 1. So Act 1, people get up on stage and they pitch their novel. They have 1 minute to pitch their novel, and then we're going to go to 6 American cities. And we'll choose one contestant from each city. And that's the American Idol, but for writers part. Act 2, see, I tell everything like the storytelling. I'm trying to get beginning, middle, and end. And so Act 2 is essentially the contestants are all going to live in this hopefully very glamorous house and write together for, guess how many days? 30 days. They're going to write their novel, 50,000 words in 30 days. And so it's going to be kind of like the real world, but for writers. And
it's like Hollywood Week.
Yeah.
It's like American Idol's Hollywood Week. It's brutal.
Yeah. So people will be living together and writing together, and there'll be a lot of drama there and a lot of educational opportunities. And we're going to have like a lot of celebrity guest authors and judges who will, both give instruction and pep talks and all that sort of thing. And then the end goal is that everybody will publish their novel.
I love this. So then, wow, this is amazing. Like, I would watch this all day. I still watch American Idol. So I didn't know if it was going to be like it's kind of like it's also almost like Project Greenlight meets American Idol.
Yep. Yeah. They're different reality shows that are kind of part of this or influence it. Yeah.
That's really cool.
But the whole premise of it too, though, is that we want it to be an educational experience. We want to get a very diverse group of writers, writing together. We want these writers to essentially be role models for everybody. So, like, I'm thinking of the NaNoWriMo principle. Like, let's all write together. I would love if this show can air during November, that we can get essentially Americans America as a country writing novels together, because I want people
really cool.
Yeah, I want people's stories to be told and put out there in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds really fascinating. I love this idea. Okay, so keep us posted
Okay.
on how that goes. And we'll have to have you back. Even if you just come on the podcast or something like that, so that we can, once you're ready to launch that, because it's going to get picked up. And then that would be really cool.
I think so. Yeah.
Follow the journey of that show.
Yeah.
So somebody says, what's your thought about authors that don't rewrite and believe that the story is ready on the first draft? Maybe publishers don't, maybe the publishers or the lit agents get too many people submitting their first draft of their NaNoWriMo for consideration.
People have said that, but I've yet to talk to the NaNoWriMo writer who submitted their first draft. I think that that's a myth. I think people like to say that. I'm sure it's happened and it happens, but generally I think they're smart enough to know that writing is rewriting, as many people say, that most novels go through several rounds of revision at the very least. And so I would say to this writer, there have been novels written pretty quickly in history, but you know what? Even Jack Kerouac's On the Road, which is supposedly famously just a first draft, he actually revised that. So I think I think there's a lot to be said for revision. And so I would, if a writer told me I'm done with this, it's perfect after one draft, I would encourage them to look at it more skeptically, and to I think that you deepen the story so much through revision. And that's what we're really going for with stories, is to find the essence of the story and to go deep with it. And so, yeah, I encourage everybody to revise.
And you do have some revision videos on the site, don't you?
Absolutely. We have a program called I Wrote a Novel, Now What? That starts in January, and we explore revision and publishing, and try to provide some guidance. We had a special revision workshop series this year.
Yeah.
So we provide a bunch of different resources and help for that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what's so great too about it. It's just you're encouraging writers, but you're educating them. And it's so helpful for them to understand what the whole process is. And then somebody was talking about outlining, wanted to know if you outlined, and we kind of touched on that a little bit, but do you have any kind of a method that you use when you outline, when you do that broad stroke?
Yeah, I outline, I think when I started out, I was more on the pantsing side of things, and I consider myself more of a plantser now. I've experimented with outlines in the past, but I like to essentially spend the month of October kind of daydreaming and writing notes and finding my story and my characters especially. And I like to, and actually somewhere in the month of October, towards NaNoWriMo, I will actually read Save the Cat for Novelists that Jessica Brody wrote. And I like it because I read it as a brainstorming exercise, because it makes me think about my novel. And I also read novels that are similar to the one that I'm writing as a way to kind of prime myself. And so I come up with an outline. It's not a rigid outline, and it doesn't go deep. It just provides me direction. I find them best if I have a clear sense of direction. But again, I'm writing for the mystery of the story. I'm writing for discovery. I'm writing to find answers to the questions. And so that's just where I need to be as a writer. And so, I might set up a spine of the novel. I might set up in my software, 10, 20 chapters. I might do some character background work, stuff like that, and think about some scenes. But really, it is discovery. I like to keep that discovery very prominent.
What software do you use to write? Do you use Scrivener?
I actually do use Scrivener for novels, but I use Word a lot for shorter stories. Yeah.
Yeah. Scrivener is very intimidating, but it's really, there's a lot of videos out there on how to use it. And then somebody asked, love that site. I think they're talking about NaNoWriMo. Would love to be a leader at an upcoming NaNoWriMo. Do you have those in-person session, or is everything online?
Not everything's online. You can volunteer to be municipal liaisons or apply to be. And so that application process will open up next year. So I think it opens up around May. So this year is not a possibility, but you could actually go and sign up for your region and get to know your municipal liaison, because municipal liaisons, sometimes there's not just one for a region. There are co-municipal liaisons as well, or people that just help out the volunteer. And so I think like the more you're engaged in your NaNoWriMo writing community, then, you'll be kind of train yourself in terms of how to do that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Chelsea asked, as the nano guy, are you a pantser? He's a planter. We just talked about your process, I guess. And then we already talked about the show. So we're good on that one. Somebody wants to join in this year. So that's good. Trying to cipher through this because the chat. How long does it take for you to finish your first draft?
Meaning beyond NaNoWriMo?
Beyond because a first draft of a full novel is more than 50,000 words. So after Nano, do you take a break? Do you walk away for a little bit, or do you just keep plowing through to get that first draft done?
I think it depends on my life circumstances and all the projects I'm working on. And if the NaNoWriMo project has become my primary project, generally we advise people to step away from your draft for a while. I would say if you've only written 50,000 words and it's a 75,000 word novel, keep going if you can. But then once you've written that rough draft, I really think that taking some time off, a month or so, whatever you need, because I just feel like you need to refresh yourself. At least I do. And you come back to it with a more objective eye. And revision is its own kind of special, separate thing, And so I like having a lot of objectivity and distance. Like sometimes I might not print out my rough draft, but I might revise that rough draft. And then I like having a print copy for some hardcore revision. Yeah. So I print it out. I get out of my house. I go to a cafe, or I go, drive away and stay in a cheap motel for 2 days. Whatever I can do to get away from my normal circumstances, so that I have just a different eye on what I'm writing. And I might end up doing more revision. I always do more revisions than I think I will. I always think it's done before it's truly done. So I have to then either get feedback or put it out into the world. And once I experience that bit of rejection or some negative comments, then I will dive back in for more revision. So I do a lot of revision.
There's I was thinking about writing retreats the other day for some reason, and really you can create your own writing retreat.
Yes.
Time like you do for a lot less money, and
yes,
and just really the beauty, all that it is removing yourself from your regular routine in life.
Exactly.
And putting yourself someplace fresh where you're not distracted by life.
I'm a big fan of the mini writing retreat, like I mentioned, the like a long weekend writing retreat, or just a weekend. My wife, who's a writer, we have all these conversations because like I usually don't have the time or the money to go away for like a week or two or a month. And so I have to figure out how I can do that in my life. And so we're always like, so you have to go, here are our definitions. You can't go to a place where you want a vacation, or really you can't go someplace where there's a lot of pleasure to be had, because you want to be working on your novel. You can't go too far away because you don't want to spend so much time like traveling, right? So we're always like, you've got to go within an hour or two, far enough away that you're not going to be called home as well. So anyway, thinking about like what would be the most creative spot near your home where you can get away just enough.
And I think what's good about the shortness of the duration is that if you're, then you got to get right to it.
Exactly.
Like it's like if you've got a week, you're like, oh, well, maybe I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah, a weekend's great. Because
a weekend is great.
It's sort of like NaNoWriMo. It puts that like goal deadline pressure on you.
Yep. Yeah. Get it going. Okay, so this is a good question. Yes. What are your criteria for telling a legitimate from a con man type of self-publishing organization? And which ones do you feel comfortable recommending, if any?
Wait, what was the question? Con man?
Like there's all these like, organizations like, we'll help you get your book published and, that kind of stuff. And it's hard sometimes to tell for authors or there's a lot of good hybrid organizations but some that are just a bit a bit make you feel like they're a con man? Like, how do you know?
I see. Yeah, it's a really good question, because I think the unfortunate part about the publishing world is there are some very predatory businesses out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually go straight to this website, Writer Beware,
Mm-hmm.
and just see if I think Victoria Strauss is the name of the woman who runs it. But she basically, her whole mission in life is to uncover scams and to investigate whether something was legit or not. So I see if she's written about it, and that's my go-to place, really, because she's covered a lot of things, a lot of issues. Or if she hasn't covered like a specific business, she'll say, "Here's what you should look out for," you know. And I think there are, though, great. It just depends what you're looking for. There's so many. More writing services than ever these days, right? You can hire somebody you've never met to do your cover design, or to be a book coach for you, or edit your novel. So I haven't personally done those. And like you say, there are like really legit, great hybrid publishers, like my Right-Minded podcast co-host, Brooke Warner, founded one. She writes press. She's she's full of integrity. So
yeah, that's a very good one. Okay, so somebody was asking this logistical stuff. If they already have about 6,000 words written, like, is it okay for them to jump into Nano?
Well, the NaNoWriMo purists would say no. The NaNoWriMo purists would say it's best to start with an entirely new project and start entirely from scratch. And I do think that there's a great deal of like fun and creative challenge in doing that. I guess I'm not a purist in much in life. I think the main thing I want people to do is to show up to write, and to write in a way that's meaningful for them. And so I'd say, sure, show up with 6,000 words and just have the goal of 30 days and 50,000 words, and see if you can do it.
Yeah. Okay. And I agree with that. I think just, jump in, because any progress you're making is good.
Yeah. I never want to.
Yeah. Any suggestions on gathering the motivation to write scenes that you're avoiding?
That's interesting. I mean, when people are blocked in the NaNoWriMo novel, when they reach a scene that they don't want to write or they're having trouble with, I always say, go ahead and skip scenes, skip to later in the novel, write something you really want to write. And that in turn not only helps you keep your novel progressing, but I hope it gives you creative fuel and juice to go back and write that scene that you're avoiding or having a tough time with. I like to think of a lot of ways to create momentum in your writing. So I guess you need to, although, ask yourself, like, what is it about that scene you don't want to write? Like, is it a triggering scene? Is it a personal scene, a personal memory that's like, you know what I mean? That's kind of traumatic. So I don't know exactly how to answer this, but maybe don't even write it as a scene. Maybe do what you were saying earlier, like, don't sit in front of your laptop, take a walk, take a notebook with you, stop in a cafe, just do some free writing about the scene. I mean, what I find sometimes is that all you need is a paragraph, and that paragraph is the door opener. You just need to create a little momentum. One sentence usually leads to two sentences, and one paragraph usually leads to two paragraphs. So maybe it's just a matter of finding a way to start it.
Or write the scene as 100-word story.
You could do that too. Yeah.
One of the things too that I do when I get stuck, or when I'm just trying to test a story idea, is I do a stream of consciousness writing, where I set the timer for 15 minutes and I just write whatever's coming to my mind, whatever. And you could even do a stream of consciousness to get yourself warmed up, talking about why you don't want to write the scene.
It's like what you did is like the Pomodoro technique, right? Where you do a timer like that. I just talked to Andrea Bartz, the woman I just interviewed for our Right-Minded. She does that. She takes her phone. She doesn't use the timer on her phone. She puts that in another room, but she sets the timer for like 15 or 20 minutes, and she does exactly that. She has to intensely write for that period of time, no matter what. She just puts words on the page. Yeah.
And they do there's also one theory where you do the stream of consciousness writing is like, it's not so much about the timer as it is about just writing anything that comes to your mind, but when the other methods that also have worked for me is in terms of when I'm actually ready to write, is 25 minutes writing and 5-minute break.
Yep. That's what she does too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is, the 25 minutes, I don't know, it just feels more like there's more pressure on me than 30 minutes. Like, it's like, okay, I gotta get going. It's only 25 minutes. I can, and then I get a break. I get to reward myself with a latte.
There you go.
For the bathroom.
There you go. Do the latte, then do the bathroom technique.
Yeah. Oh, somebody was asking if anybody's given any thought to National Novel Revision Month.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what we do with I Wrote a Novel, Now What? But I would like to eventually kind of formalize that and have a revision month. So that is in the NaNoWriMo plan.
So what do you do to stay motivated for yourself personally?
I've never worried about that, I guess. I am just kind of naturally motivated. I hate to say it, but I've got more writing projects than I'll ever get to in my life already. And I come up with story ideas all the time. And my biggest frustration in life is that I don't have more time to write them. So yeah, I don't know how to answer that, just because I don't struggle with that. So, but go ahead.
No, go keep going.
No, I was just kind of rambling, but I mean, we all have different motivational levels for different activities, right? And so I guess it's a matter of like just deciding what place you want writing to have in your life, and if you want it to have a very primary place, even think of it like an athlete. What does an athlete have to do to show up and be good? If it has that kind of primary place. And I mean, if you're not that motivated to do it, maybe having a primary place, and maybe it needs to have a more secondary place. It's not like you have to get rid of it in your life. Plenty of people, and that's why I mentioned that we have plenty of people who participate in NaNoWriMo, and they only write a novel once a year. They don't write the rest of the year. They just like writing a novel with their friends once a year. So it's kind of like knitting. You don't have to professionalize you can do art for art's sake, So I guess it's just like, what do you want out of this activity? And then the motivation will probably follow.
Does it help that your wife is a writer?
It probably does. Like we never misunderstand each other when it comes to writing. We know that we each want more time. Obviously we know the struggles on many different levels. We've been together forever, so I don't know what it would be like to be married to somebody who's not a writer, like I don't know what those conversations would be like.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, well, I can tell you, but we won't go into that. Somebody was asking if you ever recommend, would you recommend purchasing Kirkus reviews? Like if you're a self-published author.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've heard that that's a pretty standard practice, but I'm not the greatest person to ask for advice for things like that, because I haven't really gone through the whole life cycle of an indie book that I've self-published. But yeah, I know there's a challenge about getting reviews for self-published books. I know people who have gotten those Kirkus reviews, and they do charge for them. So, but
we do have a symposium that Karen Richardson taught about all the basics of self-publishing. Really, really good in depth. You can find it on the symposium site if you look on the tab under publishing. And she went into some deep dives. She's awesome. I'll have to introduce you to her in real life. Somebody wanted to know if there can be somebody from Canada. I'm not sure. I'm thinking they're talking about perhaps a leader or liaison kind of person.
Yeah, well, NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month is global. It's really International Novel Writing Month. We have generally people from like 200 countries each year, right? We've had people on all 7 continents, right? And yes, you can be also a leader from one of these other countries. The 1,000 volunteers that I mentioned, they are global as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then somebody asked again about I think it was probably the same person, just wanted to make sure we heard the answer about the con man, which would your writer beware site is a great idea. Chelsea asked what Scrivener is. Scrivener is not free, but it's cheap. It's really, really very inexpensive software. It's a very robust writing software that almost does too much.
Mhm.
Like I almost feel like there should be a Scrivener Lite, you know?
Yeah, it does do a lot. You don't need to, but like I know maybe 10% of it. I use only and I was talking to the founder of Scrivener the other day, and he was fine with that. He was like, you don't need to know. I mean, most of the software we use in life, we really don't know all that it does. We just use what's good for us. But yeah, Scrivener's, I would guide people to the NaNoWriMo's site. And if you go under writers resources, you'll see special offers. And we have a bunch of sponsors there who offer discounts on their products and services. And there are a bunch of writing softwares or writing platforms, and they're really cool. They do a lot of cool stuff, including Scrivener. And Scrivener was actually developed by a NaNoWriMo writer way back in like 2005. A bunch of writing software has been developed by NaNoWriMo writers who have been dissatisfied with like Word for one.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty cool though, because to have a software developed by a writer, just has a different kind of texture to it.
And you can customize a lot of it, and you make these little chapters that all become part of the book. So you can, and I would definitely look into it. Go on YouTube to look at videos about, just Google, put in Scrivener how to and YouTube and just get a feel for it. It's very affordable software and does a lot of stuff. I don't know where I saw it. Somebody, I think I've passed it or lost it. Somebody talked about writing sprints. They want to jump into writing sprints on Twitter. You can follow me at JeannieVB and then just tweet me and be like, hey, I want to do writing sprints with you. And I'll create a list and we can all join in and do writing sprints together.
Yeah.
Always tag me whenever you want to do a sprint. I'm happy to jump in.
You can also, I want you to do with Jeannie, but also there's at Nano Word Sprints on Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so we've got, during November, they're happening 24 hours a day. And so all those volunteers around the world, they volunteer and do Twitter shifts. So you can do it online that way as well.
And when we do the recording of this, I'll try to include as many of these resources that we're talking about, and but definitely the Nano site and where you get the software and for the teens, for the kids, and all that stuff.
Cool.
So you guys can get it all in the recording email. Let's see, we're kind of running out of time here, Grant.
Uh-oh.
I know. What happens when your idea comes out of nowhere and threatens to hijack your plans? What happens if this happens every week?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I always say to write the novel that's calling you. I think if you're getting a bunch of ideas that are hijacking your plans, focus on that word hijack. I think I mean, if we're always chasing new ideas, and new ideas always seem better than the idea you're working on, by the way. So they're very seductive, but they quickly become an old idea when another new idea comes around. And so I think you need to question yourself. Like if you want to finish one of those ideas and really finish the novel, then it's going to take a lot of discipline. It's going to take also a lot of ideas that just seem better, like there will be moments in writing your novel, even if it's just NaNoWriMo for 30 days, where you'll hate your novel idea. You'll totally lose faith in it. You'll hit a wall, but that's usually temporary. You will find a way. It really is like romance in some ways. It's like you're going to go through your low periods, but that's the way to kind of deepen the love. To experience struggle together. Yeah. Now my dog's getting antsy.
Well, my dog's sitting next to me too. But we'll let you go. We'll just try to wrap this up. But somebody was talking about how do you keep yourself, like, do you edit as you're going along with the first rough draft, or do you try to just get through the whole thing before you go back?
Yeah, people have different. I mean, the kind of old school NaNoWriMo philosophy is to always focus on progress, never stop to delete a word, never stop to edit. I actually sometimes like to edit in order to get momentum. I need to have things like a little bit tidy. So if I've got plenty of time, I actually like to edit a little bit, but not to get stuck in editing. You know, you can get stuck in it and keep trying to make things perfect. And like when I one of my writing methods when I was early on, when I was a writer, like I would just work on that first chapter until it was absolutely perfect before I could move on. And what happens is that inevitably in your second or third draft, that first chapter gets cut. Joyce Carol said, you don't know the first word of your novel until you've written the last word of it,
yes,
or the last sentence. And so I think there's really something about that discovery draft, finding your story, and then you go back and revise. But if you're doing too much revision, you know what I mean? It's kind of an ineffective writing method, really.
Yeah, like in the book I'm working on now, like in the beginning, people put so much, and it's important. That first sentence, that first paragraph, super important. So when you're sitting there and you don't even know your story yet, how are you going to know your first paragraph? I literally put something like, "This will be a great paragraph," and then I went on. I started writing. Just like I'll go back to that, and I actually learned that from Douglas Blackman, who's a Pulitzer Prize winning author, and he said to me, even with writing articles, because he used to be a senior national correspondent for the Wall Street Journal, and he used to say, I never write that first. I will know what my first paragraph is of my article once I'm done writing the article, and I'll come back and I'll know how I should frame it. Because you're still discovering what you're going to say about whatever it is you're writing. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so don't get hung up on that. I often will be like, write something brilliant here. Or if there's that scene that you don't want to write, write like, this is what I want to happen in that scene.
Yeah.
So you've got like a placeholder for it, and
Good
then
advice.
keep going.
I think that's great advice. Yeah.
Somebody said, what about the book 7 drafts? It scares the bleep, bleep, bleep out of me that it might take me that long to write my memoir. Could it be less? I don't think there's any rule of how many drafts something takes you.
Not at all. No, I think it's, and even the question of what is done, how do you know it's done? It's such a personal, you have to give a personal answer to that. So yeah, I would revise it until it meets your standards. And writing a memoir has, I don't know if the person wants to publish the memoir or if it's just for themselves or for family. But it's a personal judgment.
Yeah. Somebody asked us to repeat the name of that. The site's called Writer Beware. So, and we'll put that in the email too, so that you've got that. Scrolling through, a lot of great comments. Thank you. You're great. Blah, blah, blah.
Aww,
You
nice.
meaning you, Grant.
You too.
Oh. And then somebody asked if there was if we could use an idea from something that we've already written for Nano. And I think that speaks to your purist versus whatever. Yeah. Have you heard of the 20 books to 50K Facebook group? I have. I belong to it because I like to just learn and I'm a lurker too, Christina. But it seems like a great place for self-publishing to go and commiserate. A lot of good info is shared in there, and there are many people in the group who are successful. They also have, if you guys join that, it's called 20 books to 50K, all one word. It's a Facebook group, and they have a lot of resources and the whole purpose of that group is if you write 20 books, you can be making $50,000 a year because you've got a backlist and all that stuff. Takes a big commitment to write 20 books. And no one has talked about necessarily the quality of those 20 books, but I would recommend to anybody self-publishing to still get a good editor because, you want to rise above a lot of noise in self-publishing, but that's a very good site. The people on there, the Facebook group, the people on there are super, super helpful. Let's see. Somebody said that, her husband, that she and her husband are both filmmakers and writers, so our conversations are pretty interesting and weird. I bet.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, my husband's not a writer, but he's a very good idea man. And so we'll brainstorm stuff sometimes, which is helpful. Do you have any suggestions for obtaining a literary agent?
That is a tough thing to do, actually. I think there are a bunch of different ways you can go about it. I mean, I do a lot of research about it to start, more than what I can tell you here. It's really about that query letter. It's really about the quality of your writing. It's really about being relentless because you'll likely get a lot of rejections. It's hard, I think. There's so many different types of literary agents, and some of them have a full client list. They might represent your favorite author, but they might have a full client list. So I always say, especially for beginning novelists, don't necessarily try to go for those big name agents. Look for ones who are even junior agents, just beginning out, because they're going to put a lot more energy. They're looking for clients, put a lot more energy into your book. But I think don't be bashful. Ask anybody you know who has an agent if they will do an introduction. I think the more kind of like personal interactions you can have with agents. I mean, I'm a little bit. Sometimes I don't like to send people to writing conferences because they could be very expensive. But if there's a way for you to kind of talk with agents and have some direct contact with them, I think that can be good too, to establish some sort of rapport. But unfortunately, like New York publishing, that's where most of the agents are. It's a very kind of closed society in some ways, I have to say, and it can be hard to penetrate it. So that's when I said that you have to be relentless. You really do have to be relentless, and you have to do your research. So it takes a lot of work generally. Some people luck out. Some people will like have an agent, like the third agent who reads their query letter will take them on. But that's a rare story, actually.
But also, I think I got a couple thoughts about the agent thing, if I may.
Yeah.
I actually worked the Pitch Slam room for Writers Digest conference this last year, and I love pitching. I am obsessed with pitching. And screenwriting taught me the whole art of pitch. And I did a whole free symposium about that, like how to work a speed pitching event. But like you said, going to and there are other conferences that have agents present and an opportunity to pitch them. When they can see you face to face, it sets you apart. It's all like whenever you can, if there's a way you can afford to go to a conference, but look up, research them, find one that's close to you that maybe you can drive to instead of fly to, or maybe you meet some friends online and you all go together, and it's a way to you also are networking with each other. But with pitching agents, it's really like when there's ways that you can find out what they're looking for. There's a website, manuscript wish list, where you can go on and see exactly what they're looking for. Follow them on Twitter, because it gives you an idea of what their personality is like. And they also will say on Twitter, sometimes right in their bio, I'm open for querying, or I'm closed for querying right now. You can get a lot of great information just about, or if you have submitted a query, then they might be like, okay, I'm backlogged. I'm about 3 months behind. Hang in there, everybody. Like, it gives you a little bit more insight into them. And also whether, remember you're choosing a partner for your team, and you may be so focused on getting an agent that you're not focused on getting the right agent. So the first agent that says, I want to represent you, and you're like, oh my God, an agent wants to represent me. And then you realize you just stepped in like a hot mess situation. Not because the agent's a bad person, just because they might not be the right person for you. It just like you said before, very much like dating. I mean, and it's okay to break up with your agent and to do it professionally, so there's no hard feelings. And it might be, like it's all okay. It might take you 3 tries before you get the agent that's the right one for you.
Totally.
And I mean, in terms of like 3 agents that you're going through, and it can take you 85 pitches to get easily. So
put the number high. Yep.
Right. And it doesn't mean that you aren't desirable or that your work isn't desirable. It's just finding the right person. And I would say, I always say, do you want it done right, or do you want it done right now? And that is triple true with agents, like, or in screenwriting with managers. You want the right person representing you. So be patient, just like you wouldn't want to marry the first guy who asked you.
Mm-hmm. And like for the research level too, like I would go to like Publishers Marketplace.
Right.
If you research it, there'll be a bunch of sites like this, but Publishers Marketplace, you can see all the deals that have been made,
Yeah.
what books have sold, for how much, who represented them. And then like you were saying, like if you can't go to writers conferences, there are actually a lot of like pitch events on Twitter and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't name them off the top of my head, but
there's a big one that just actually folded.
Right. Yeah, unfortunately. But anyway, there are a lot of different ways to go about it. And so I would research those different ways and try your hand at them. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody asked how you find junior agents. Their Writer's Digest is a really great, I don't work for them anymore, but I used to work for them. Wonderful, wonderful resource. They've been around for 100 years. So they have, I know they used to have a column out where they would.
I love that column.
Introduce a new agent. Yeah. And, but you can just search literary agents or meet the agent. I can't remember what they used to call it.
Something like that. Yeah, it's still available if you Google it. I'm not sure if it's actively being updated, but that was a great feature. But and most agents they have, if you go to their, like if you hear, this agent, represents my favorite author, you can go and see. They'll usually tell you like what they're looking for, Yeah. So you got to know the industry, upmarket women's fiction. You got to know what that means.
Yeah. There's so many things out there. And Chelsea also shouted out a podcast that I love, and it's really great to help you with query letters. It's called The Shit No One Tells You About Writing. Really good podcast. And they have 2 agents on, and they analyze, I think 3 query letters or something. And then they go into, and then she goes into whatever her discussion is or topic is for the podcast. But that's how they start every podcast. It's really good.
There's a great agent newsletter, and I'm looking it up right now. Anyway, it's on Substack. I think it's written by, I think it's called Books and Agents. Kate McKean, something like that. Anyway, she kind of talks about agenting issues every week. It's a good one. It's free too.
Yeah, which is great. Let's see. Poets and Writers. Chelsea also said Poets and Writers is a great website. Manuscript wish list. Yeah. And we're going to have a panel soon, a symposium panel with agents. And then I'd love to have another panel with editors, so we can like crawl into them. We did that with screenwriting, and they will be free. And we did that with screenwriting manager and agent. And it's just great to get that, opportunity to ask them questions too. So I think we're good.
We're good?
I think we're good.
That was fun.
It was longer than an hour, but we appreciate you hanging a little longer. We appreciate your dog holding his or her bladder.
Yeah, he's sitting here right now, staring up at me. I think we pushed him to the limit here. Yeah.
Please apologize to him for me.
Yeah. No, he's my writing companion. He's on my lap every morning with my laptop on top of him. So, lap dog, laptop. We write together.
Oh, that's so great. So our next symposium is going to be, with Jeff Willis, who works for Marvel. And he's going to be talking about business basics for creatives. And that's on the 11th of this month. And he does a lot of like contract negotiations and stuff like that. And he's super, super generous and kind and incredibly knowledgeable. I did a very long interview of him, a short one for Writer's Digest print magazine, but one that ended up getting published on scriptmag.com. Great guy, super generous. So we like to have those kinds of people who just love helping other writers. But thank you so much, Grant. And
thank you.
We really, really appreciate it. And if you need a judge for your show, I'd love to, or just watch. I want to just be there on set and just like watch, because I'm like an American Idol freak. I love that show. And it's I love watching people go after and achieve their dreams.
Yeah, it's a show based on positivity. We're not going to practice all the negativity that a lot of reality shows have. So
which is awesome. Okay.
Yeah. Everyone do NaNoWriMo. Go to the NaNoWriMo site, sign up right now, get ready to write. You can do it. I want to see you in Nanoland. Yeah.
And I'm going to sign up this year. So you guys find me and we'll all create this whole little pipeline community, and we'll cheer each other on and tweet out writing sprints and all that kind of stuff. Thank you so much, Grant, not just for being here for tonight, but for everything you do for writers. We really appreciate it.
Right back at you.
Symposium is brought to you by Pipeline Artists, a division of Pipeline Media Group. To learn more about upcoming live symposiums, visit symposium.pipelineartists.com and follow us on Twitter @PipelineArtists.